are now tuned in to DAR Sports Media, the world of wrestling. And man, we picked a good time to do one of these. I got to get this is going to be like we have like a fucking, we got an agenda to get to today. This is going to be like a city council agenda. I'm going to have to get hold on, I got a gavel here. Next topic. Starting off, of course, the real life, most important stuff. Janel Grant case updates came out Friday night over the weekend. And I want to be clear, and I'll probably repeat this a couple of times throughout the spiel I'm going to give here. I want to see, justice done to the extent that it can be done in a civil case. And I hope that, they win and everybody at WWE has to pay out the ass. I want this to be so catastrophically damaging, both publicly and financially, for that company that they must ensure that they remember and that, nothing that's ever even a hint of anything like this ever happens again. So let me say that to be clear up front. So when I say things about this, it is not with the position or negatively or discounting anything this woman and her attorney are saying. I am just simply making statements of fact. It's not to denigrate what they're doing. Like when I say things like, such as the new people who were specifically named and the timing of the release of this information, both when and on this particular reason, that was done for a reason. That was done on purpose to apply pressure to WWE to get them to move this forward, to come to the table, to whatever. When I say that, I don't mean that in a way that means like, oh, they just, like it's anything bad. Like that's what you do to win these cases. Like, yeah, you do things on purpose because you want to win. So yes, when people say, oh, it was convenient timing. No, they did that on purpose to pressure WWE to fucking move this along or face the music or come to the table to negotiate or whatever it is that their ends are. But it's not in bad faith. It's just doing what you're supposed to do to win one of these cases. So the primary new information that people were talking about was people other than the press that was in the room with Triple H last night. That must be mentioned. Nobody saw fit to ask any questions about this, and that's not saying that they were right to do that. I'm just bringing that up because a lot of people feel strongly about that online, and we're acknowledging that. I think that that's a miss to not mention this in the press conference, but there you go. The primary new points brought up is that Vince, so names were named in a way, and we're going to get to that. Nick Khan was specifically named as having approval authority over the new WWE offices, the construction of them. They had blueprints among the documents. Triple H was named as having an office that was next door to Janel Grant's office. Brock Lesnar was officially named as the person who Vince was using Janel Grant as like a bargaining chip to get as part of his re-signing. And Michael Hayes was named as basically Vince asked Janel Grant to make content for Michael Hayes and the production crew, members of the production crew. Those are the four primary points that came out of yesterday's information Friday night. And people are online, purple-faced, screaming that this confirms that those people they knew everything. They knew every single detail of what this woman was going through based upon that. So, and also in the primary thing about the new construction was that there was a private entrance that went between Janel Grant's office and John Laurinaitis' office. that was installed as part of the new construction. So, as we usually do here, I'm going to say that I know that some of you, your view of this is extremely skewed because you have never worked in an office or had sex. So there is that, or had any kind of a close private relationship with anybody. So first thing I want to say is a lot of offices. I've worked in a lot of high-level office buildings. There being a private entrance between two offices, between a person who works in like a secretarial or support role to a higher executive staff member, that is not uncommon. I've worked in like fucking 8 places that had that exact thing. It's not uncommon for there to be a both private entrance from the outside to the inside, and also a private go-between door between support staff and higher level executives. I spent the last 6 years of my life working in an office, 2 separate offices that had both of those things. So Nick Khan, as one of the heads of WWE, reviewing new build plans and approving that is not. First of all, y'all are sitting there and like they all got around a table and like, okay, how are we going to make it easier to victimize this woman? So let's put this design flaw, let's put this design idea into the new construction plans. It's a secret entranceway to the sex chamber. No, it's how really involved do you think Nick Khan is in the fucking design of a new building? He probably got passed in front of him. Hey, this is what we're doing. This is what it costs. This is why. Cool. Is anything crazy with this? Is this what my people want? Good. Sign off. Like private. Now we know what it was being used for, but that design in a building doesn't mean anything. Sorry. Like so many of you, and again, when I talk about your perspective is skewed, is because so many of you want this so badly. Like you do not care about Janel Grant. You care about demonizing the WWE as a whole. You want the company to be the enemy so bad that you are leaping towards, oh, this is it. Here we go. Like you want it to be that so bad. I saw so many of you just wishing upon a star on Twitter yesterday. It's just not the case. There's plenty of things to denigrate and you know, in this situation that WWE culturally did wrong without, you know, you leaping. And again, yeah, they're naming Nick Khan, and I'll put it to you like this. If they had more concrete information that Nick Khan and Triple H directly knew specifically what this woman was going through, they would present it. But what they have is Nick Khan approved. It's showing that, you know, some complicity. There's a difference between being somewhat complicit in a situation that's going on, and we're going to get to that when we talk about the Michael Hayes part of this, and directly knowing. Same thing. Triple H. I would ask if any of you have ever worked in an office building before, but that's probably a huge fucking no. But anyone who has, like, I don't know what's going on in the life of the person who shares an office next door to mine. And furthermore, so right, he knew that they had a relationship. So if you know it's your father-in-law's girlfriend that you share, that, and furthermore, like you're not gonna, I don't know, poke around and ask him, you know, poke around and ask too many questions. Furthermore, most entertainment-based companies, we're going to get also a little bit more into what's normal in entertainment-based companies. But as far as the construction of these offices, most entertainment-based companies have soundproofing in between each office wall. For all sorts of fucking reasons, all sorts of confidentiality and creative and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Not saying that's what it is. It's not confirmed, but it's very, very common. What else is common, and we talked about this last summer when we covered this, in the industry, in the entertainment industry, and furthermore, in the wrestling industry, open relationships for lack of a quid pro quo with rich executives with much younger girlfriends who are employed or around for reasons other than their abilities in the job, for lack of a better term, pass arounds, kind of swinger culture, especially for people who came up in the 80s and the 90s, is not uncommon. It's not uncommon now, currently. In your favorite promotion, too. We're not going to name names like some other entities online do. But I can guarantee you open relationships are a thing in every wrestling promotion in all of industry. Power dynamics. Yeah, that's regular people do that. Yeah, absolutely. Power dynamics that go into those things are people that often in the entertainment industry, and especially in the wrestling industry, people enjoy. A pass around is, I guess, is a term. Is like we explained last summer. A lot of people, that happens. They loan out their partner. It happens in homosexual relationships. It happens in heterosexual relationships. It happens with the woman getting passed around. It happens with the man getting passed around. I'm not going to say it's like the standard or the average, but it's also not that abnormal. I'm going to tell you right now, everybody who is in Vince's orbit, this ain't the first time he's had a relationship like that. Now, obviously, we're finding out some of them were consensual. Many of them may not have been. But when you are making definitive, purple-faced, screaming statements about who knew, quote unquote, knew what specifics, based upon approving an office design that has a very normal feature and having an office next door to your father-in-law's girlfriend. Knew what specifically? Do you think if they had more specific, concrete evidence that these two guys knew specifically the way she felt about the situation, they wouldn't have presented it by now? The Michael Hayes component. Now, I say all that to say that when you as a person interact with one of these situations, and this goes for if you're also like a patron of sex workers, if you're a person accepting these sexual favors on behalf of someone who is not the person who is giving them in one of these relationships, while these things do happen consensually, and oh yeah, everyone's cool with it, man. You do, when you involve yourself in these kind of things, you do, and this is assuming, of course, we believe the woman, that what was said about Michael Hayes and the production crew is true. That is an assumption we're making. When you engage in one of these situations, you are taking a risk. You are risking that you are proliferating or abetting a situation where someone is being sexually trafficked. That is a risk you are taking when you involve yourself into one of these situations, no matter how clear it seems from the outside. Where I used to work, there was a few swinger situations, where it said everybody was cool. And I would advise people when they would mention it, maybe thinking about possibly involving themselves with some of those people. I say everything's cool until it's not. So I would be careful. And obviously, this situation, from what Janel Grant says, was never cool at any point. So if the hammer falls on them, that is the risk that they took for involving themselves. But that's still, so what I'm getting at here is it doesn't necessarily mean that they knew either. that she was that she felt like she was doing this against her will or against her consent, that she felt trapped, that she felt, victimized by Vince. They probably, if you think, I'll tell you right now, if there's somebody who knows, most likely, about these types of party like atmospheres with partners, Michael Hayes is one of those fucking guys. Because Freebirds did a hell of a lot of partying back in the 80s, 70s. But so that doesn't necessarily mean that they knew the darker side of what was going on with Janel Grant in this situation. But that is the risk you take when you accept favors from someone on behalf of someone who is not the person who is performing those favors. Same thing we said about Brock Lesnar, who was officially named in this new information. He again, at this point, it's Vince offering his girlfriend to do nasty things with Brock Lesnar as part of him signing. If they're swingers, if they're in an open relationship, as far as Brock knows, yeah, okay, cool. But again, it's Vince offering on behalf of her and not her saying and doing these things. When you accept something like that, you run the risk that you are abetting a sex trafficking situation. And that appears to be what was going on here. So both Hayes and Brock ran that risk, rolled that dice, and this is the result. And so if Brock's already pretty much gone and doesn't seem like he's coming back, and if Hayes gets shown the door as well, then that is what it is. Again, if you don't want to get dirt on you, don't involve yourself with pigs. And that's how Vince McMahon was conducting himself in this situation. So that's the new Janel Grant stuff. That's my read on it. Personally, I just don't think that we really got a whole lot really new out of this. Obviously, I don't share as much of the passionate reaction as many of you that I saw on there did. And I think that most of it, not all of it, but most of it is in kind of bad faith because you want WWE to be the singular enemy, and your favorite company's position as the hero was fading over the last year because of nasty shit that they do, because of them silencing women who are victims, because of them extending people's contracts for injury time and doing nasty little shit, because of them putting people on ice and not letting them go, because of them not performing to that standard of what would be a good adversary to bring down this quote unquote evil empire. That's why you want WWE to be reestablished as the overall enemy so badly. And that's why you were so excited about this information the other day. I don't really see too much new out of this, other than it was a good tactic to get names and try to apply more pressure to WWE to get this thing closed out, get Janel Grant her win in some form of justice. Which, good on them. True, what do you think, man? That's the new info.
So there's a few things. I've said this on Twitter, I'll say it again. I really don't have much to speak on with this case because at the end of the day, I think it's an open and shut situation. I think Janel Grant should be awarded whatever she's seeking. I also think wrestling fans tend to forget, like you mentioned, as someone who's been around several people that I know personally who have open relationships or polyamorous or whatever the fuck it's called, or swingers and shit. I'm in Cincinnati, which is like damn near swingers capital of America right now, and I've been approached to take people's wives since I've been here. Have not taken that offer because most because I'm not really into that thing. That's not my thing, and also not attracted to the women that were in question. But this happens very often where there is this power dynamic, even in marriages, like relationships, where people just want to give out the women that they're dating or whatever, and a lot of times the women aren't necessarily on board. Sometimes the women are the ones that are more on board than men. That's a whole,
Yeah.
that's, the dynamic you can never really tell. There's men who are uncomfortable with, people say loaning their wife out, but their wives are so insistent. There's different dynamics that exist in this world that I know the wrestling fan base doesn't understand because they're not around real people. They don't experience these things. It took me a while. You know what I'm saying? I'm from the street, so I didn't really understand these things. And when they first started popping up, I was like, what the fuck is this? What the fuck is going on? You letting people, you know what I'm saying, trying to smash a girl and wife? Like, that's crazy. To me, that's crazy. But to people in that world, that's normal to them. For a Vince McMahon, for a wealthy, most wealthy businessmen who are married or engaged in anything, this is kind of par for the course. Unfortunately, this is kind of the sickness of this in these industries that people have talked about for a while. How they, use and abuse and do these things with the women that they have because it's a power thing. Because you have power over someone because you have the money. And the same could be said for the Hollywood execs when people talk about the Diddy's and all other, like, this is what happens in the industry. You give people power, you give people money, they feel like they're completely infallible, they can do whatever they want, and they abuse that power. And it's typically done in a sexual way. As unfortunate as it is, that is the reality. Um, Vince McMahon is no stranger to controversy and no stranger to uh, women feeling like things were not consensual. That is something that has been a consistent thing. There are things that were swept under the rug because it was easier to sweep them under the rug back in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s. And now, with the information era of social media, you can't sweep anything really under the rug. If somebody just puts out one little tidbit of information that seems to be accurate or possible, it's going to take off. And I'll say this in terms of the wrestling industry: a lot of people love Pat Patterson. They still hold Pat Patterson very high. There's a shit ton of stories of things that Pat Patterson did. Michael Hayes had a relationship. I use relationship in quotations with Rosa Mendez, which seemed very similar to the type of relationship that they're describing in this. So if that's the case, then this is like, I don't doubt that Michael Hayes had an understanding. Look, it's a boys' club. It's always been a boys' club backstage in the WWE. It's a boys' club backstage at the other company too, just in a different way. And I think that's where we get into this morale play. I don't necessarily think Tony Khan or somebody like that has the allegations that Vince might, but that's it's like apples. It's not the same, but they all have demons that they really try to keep under wraps. And you can't go into this morale play. Vince is a disgusting human being. He's been a disgusting human being for several different reasons. This is just added on to things that we already knew about him. And like I said, I hope Janelle Grant gets everything she's looking for. I hope if every piece of trauma that she's gone through, I hope that there are, maybe, I don't know if she's like seeking like some therapy for it to help, because these are traumatic experiences for people, and people sometimes we try to hold in these things that affect us from a traumatic standpoint when we need to, let those things out and deal with those things how they come. I just feel like this is not something to be trivialized as a tribalism thing. Uh, After last night, I absolutely agree with anybody who says "fuck the Fed," as people like to say, because fuck WWE. I'm pissed off at them right now. I'm not excited at all about WrestleMania, but that's me as a fan and what I watched. In terms of what happens with this, if Triple H knew or not, like, I think people have to understand that, oh, like, Vince has probably got some new young girlfriend. That's what he always does. That's what he always does. And to me, once again, it wouldn't be my business. I would have my opinion on it from afar, because you can have your opinion on anything from afar. If I worked in WWE and I saw Vince with a young girl, I'm like, oh, okay, I see what he like. To me, I would look at Vince like he being somebody's sugar daddy, because that's essentially what the relationship would entail. basically because you're a rich old man and you're having a relationship with younger like a younger woman, and you're paying this person. So that's like, are you giving them money and supplying them with whatever? That's typically what those relationships entail. And I think that's where I assume that's where most people's heads are. And then the other stuff comes into play. And that's where I think we kind of go off the rails a little bit. And that's where you start to get into things that not being consensual, uncomfortable, etc., etc. So you know, like I said, at the end of the day, the WWE, the entertainment industry in general, this is very much par for the course. I mean, we've seen this for years and decades of people talking about people who are in power, abusing their power, taking advantage of women, taking advantage of other men. This has been the industry. The industry is a very sick place. Just because it's wrestling does not mean it differs at all from the rest of the entertainment industry. These big wigs, these powers that be, these rich people, they use people as pawns for their own enjoyment. And this unfortunately falls under that. And that is very unfortunate for Janel Grant, for anyone who has been affected by this. I forget her name, but there was a female referee who was impacted by stuff that Vince did years ago and years ago.
Rita Chatterton.
Yeah. And so you know, that's another person who's like, this has been going on for so long. I'm 99.9% sure that your Gerald Briscoes, your Pat Pattersons, your Bruce Pritchard, your Michael Hayes have some knowledge of what happens with these women, but maybe they can't understand the internal fight or battle that some of these women feel in their minds, because it is unfortunately a boys club. They probably just look at it like, oh, Vince has another. That's just Vince. That's just Vince. You hear people talk about, that's just Vince. That's just Vince. This is just Vince. At some point, you have to look at somebody's behavior and go, yes, that's Vince, but that's fucked up, or that's not right. And this is not how we do things. And like I said, Vince got removed, and you know, the case is gonna go on. At the end of the day, I'm not gonna be the person doing the morale play on Twitter about, you know, how dare you watch the Royal Rumble? How dare you support this company and da da da. Like, at the end of the day, I use a friend's you know, Peacock to watch WWE as I see fit. I'm not paying for that shit, and I won't pay for that.
None of the wrestlers did this.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, I enjoy watching professional wrestling when I feel like watching it, when I can. And I'm gonna watch it's entertainment. I said it yesterday, it's entertainment. I don't have an invested interest in anything outside of just watching the wrestling. I don't have to support people who are complicit in this. I don't want to support them in terms of financial support, but I enjoy wrestling. I enjoy watching CM Punk go out there and wrestle. I enjoy watching Roman Reigns and your Seth Rollins and your Sami Zayns and guys like that. And I don't think anybody has to really defend or explain their position for watching WWE professional wrestling. You watch shit all the time, and there's terrible people that are probably in it, and you just don't know it. And that's the entertainment industry. There are not a lot of good people working in the entertainment industry. I think people need to understand that. You start to get parasocial.
If you're going to that point, you know, on this where it's one guy who we know for sure who got fired, if that's your standard, you're gonna run out of shit to watch. I'm gonna tell you that right now.
Yeah. Ain't much. There's not much there's no moral ground in the entertainment world, because the entertainment world is the entertainment world. You could go back to the days of like Frank Zappa. You can go back to the days of Bruce Springsteen speaking out before he, you know, whatever. There's a lot of talk about, man, sickness, and there's talks about how Clive Davis ruined several women and their careers, and there's so many layers of this that I could really get deep into, but like wrestling fans, you're on the surface. You don't understand what goes on. You're not in the industry. You haven't been around the industry. You don't get it.
They just want a WWE bad. So
yeah, it's just like
it's pointless anyway.
You can go and complain about other shit that's happening in the world that is just as bad as this, if not some situations worse, but you just don't care. And I get it. You know, you rather point the finger at people for saying something you might not agree with, or be like, how dare you support these people because of this, and how dare you support these people. That's all you guys care about. And at the end of the day, that's not a surprise. I will say I do agree with you that WWE bad, because I had to watch and sit through the Royal Rumble last night.
Well, there we go. Hold on. Got the gavel. Pissed. Got the gavel ready. Next topic. Did anything interesting or funny happen on wrestling Twitter the last couple of weeks? Look. all we can say, and fucking sicko Vince motherfucker, we can't have quite the tone of revelry, as well, not revelry, but can't have quite the upbeat tone that we would have had here if not for that gross motherfucker. But all I'm gonna say is we ain't gonna spend too much time on it. But we fucking told you. We fucking told you on multiple levels, both the folks who was getting talked about and the folks that were doing the talking. We fucking told you. We told you. And things are being laid bare, and people still don't want to believe it.
So this is personal for me. This is very personal for me. So for people who don't understand, if you're listening, you might be confused, because most wrestling fans who actually have lives don't know who the fuck these people are. I've noticed this is a wrestling Twitter thing. But what happens is that there was a brand, everybody knows the brand, and I was cool with a couple years ago, before we, came back and started doing this DER, sports and media stuff. I was cool. I did a couple articles for them. Was in a group chat with these guys. They started utilizing one of my songs, and kind of running with it and jumping into spaces and stuff. And they would use the spaces to get very popular. And I was happy for them. I just told them, I said, "Yo, pace yourselves. Don't get too far ahead of yourselves. Y'all got it." They were like, they didn't know how to ask companies for media passes for this, for that. And I was getting, media passes. I was getting, I was on Fightful at one point, and then people were just confused, like, "Yo, like, how you doing this?" And I'm like, you're in the business. If you have a name, you should be able to utilize that to get these things. So I put that bug in their ear. And if anybody denies that, like, they're being fake, but that's kind of what they do anyway. So that's whatever. I feel like when people started lying, people on that brand in particular, and those people in wrestling Twitter, we were cool. I thought we were solid. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't agree with a lot of stuff that they were doing. I would tell them that, and then that would bring an issue, because these are not people that are normal people. They don't. If you do something that's out of pocket or crazy, and your man sets you up like, "Yo, you bugging, y'all should chill." That's a friend who's like, "Yo, let me." Like, "Yo, y'all bugging." Like, no, everything cannot be changes. "Oh, we're just joking. Haha, we're just fucking around. Do not aggregate. Do not aggregate." Like, shit like that. Like, stuff like that is stupid, because you could just not do the dumb shit that you're doing. And having a Discord where you're sending people at me and others that I know personally are telling me, "Yo, they sent people at me to lie on me, harass me." Like, you're doing this to people who really don't have nothing really against y'all. They might have like some wrestling banter, like, "Oh, you like CM Punk and we like the Elite." Like, that was the whole thing. That's really where all that shit started from. And it was just a difference of opinion. And then people took that shit too far, because really y'all some bitches. And y'all were like, "Why was CM Punk punch the Young Bucks?" Like, that's really where everything started from. It's so unprofessional. Like, y'all niggas never worked in professional places ever in your lives. So, like, really, like what the fuck do you know anyway? You haven't worked in any sports related anything. Players have fought each other in the backstage area, got in confrontations and shit all the time, called out their teammates in press conferences all the fucking time. Like, that was not fucking foreign, but they took that so to heart, and they were so pussy about shit that they started to target people because they were having a name. The exact thing you tell them to do, like, "Yo, do not get crazy." Like, bro, this is wrestling. Wrestlers talk to anybody. Wrestlers will enter the DMs of literally anybody that has a little bit of a name so they can tell their story and vent to them. This has been happening for years and years and years. How do you think Dave Meltzer got any type of anything in this world? He was just a random dude who was just chronicalizing wrestling in history. Why do you think he started to get sources? He don't have none now like that, but why do you think he started to get sources? Because people just saw his name and was like, hey, I'm gonna reach this person. I'm gonna talk to this person. The JD from New York guy who was defending these dudes or trying to or whatever, that dude, who is he? Like, who is he? Right? Like some people like him, some people don't. But guess what? Wrestlers will enter his DM and talk to him. Why? Because he has some audience, some prominence. When you start to get followers, when you start to get names, before the DAR Sports and Media account became what it was my old account, and it had a lot more followers before I got suspended for like 5 years, and I lost like 4 or 5,000 followers or somehow, whatever. But it has like 4 or 5,000 followers now. It had like 8 or 9,000 back then. I had that account still followed by a ton of wrestlers, and I used to have a bunch of wrestlers that were in my DMs talking to me about their personal stuff, their problems with their company. I would never out who it was. I would never say who it was. Even when this Punk and Elite stuff was going on, we brought you a lot of stuff that were like slightly exclusive or stuff that was going on behind the scenes, but we never named names. We never said who did this. We would never put that out there, because when people confide in you, regardless of if you feel like, I wish they stopped.
When grown-ups confide in you and entrust you don't fucking
You
name
just-
names, man.
Like it's like that's not how it's done in the business. People and let me also say, I don't like, and this includes other people in this wrestling media space. I don't like when a guy like this new guy, well, he's not new because he's been around for a while, this Featherstone guy starts to take off. And then people are like, oh man, he's dropping feather bombs or whatever. I don't know the dude like that, but I could care less what he does. If he's dropping things and it's mostly accurate or continuously accurate, that's fine. People have dick rolled Dave Meltzer to hell, and he has not been accurate at all in ages. PW Insider is very accurate most of the time, but sometimes they get it wrong, and it's okay. Nobody has an issue with Dave Meltzer being out there. Nobody has an issue with PW Insider, but because this Featherstone guy started to rise up, people all of a sudden, you don't have sources, and it is exactly those same people. It was exact same people who got caught up trying to air out this Ari Gold, whatever his name is. The same person, the same people who try to air him out, they can air it out because you don't move the right way. You're hating on anyone that has sources. They were trying to hate on me at one point, probably like, you don't know nobody. I worked for AEW. I worked with the company, literally have contracts that I signed with the company. None of you motherfuckers did. Of course I would have sources that work there. Of course, the same people who talking to you, they were talking to me too. You're not special. This is wrestling. People will talk to whoever. The same people who talk to Sean Ross Sapp, they talk to other people as well. It's literally a relationship-based business. If you know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, that person be like, yo, I heard from such and such, you a good person. Let me reach out to you. Can I vent to you? Is it okay to vent to you? I worked for several wrestling companies. I was backstage at Ring of Honor before a lot of y'all was even out of high school, because y'all are little niggas. Like, stay in your lane. I was working with a lot of those guys. I rode down the road with Hangman Page. Just be normal. Like, y'all are trying to make it like, bro, like, you have a name built up. You get followers. People are, paying money to be in your discords and stuff like that. Like, you've won that part of the battle. Congratulations. Be a fucking normal person. Like, why are you so like, let's expose people. Let's expose this. Let's go to people. Like, and then you're lying. You're not even telling the truth. Like, you're just making shit up about people that you don't even fucking know. Like, it's really stupid. You playing with people's lives. They play with my life, but I'm just resourceful and resilient. So you can't completely kill me. But you could do something. I know people personally that they've been harassed. They've been like bothered for their personal stuff that I ain't gonna go into. But like, there's a lot of shit I know, and it's like, you can't move like that. You can't play like morale for everything else and then move just as bad as other people. That's not how this works. That's never how this business works. You are nobody in this business, but a voice to someone else, for a ear for someone else. The easiest way that you can have it, it can be gone. If you don't believe me, ask Brad Shepard. And if you don't know who Brad Shepard is, Bill Batty, whatever, ask these people.
Well, first of all, count your blessings that you don't fucking know who those people are. But
they had names, they had followers for a while, and people were supporting them. And now where are they? They're nowhere.
And then they moved wrong, and now they're fucking
because
nobody.
That's how this works. The business has
This
never worked that way.
This podcast, at least 10 to 15 times, has told y'all what was going to happen without telling you what was going to happen.
Yep.
How the fuck do you think we knew that? Knew those things? How do you think we've been like 100% accurate when in inferring certain things might happen? It's and another thing that we've been 100% accurate on, which got verified in a nasty, ugly way, is how some things and some vibes are behind the scenes at certain companies. But we weren't going to fucking name names and drag individual people's names and characters through the fucking mud. But both sides, we have told you in the past about True's interaction with certain groups of followers of some outlets, and how nasty they move. And we have told you about how some of the less mature, shall we say, happenings behind some companies. We've told you about that too. And both of those things were completely, clearly in front of everyone, verified. Now, ultimately, they said, what's the ultimate goal here? I said, well, ultimately, it'd be good if everybody just acted like normal fucking human beings. That's 8th grade lunch table shit to real people in real life, trying to get through.
I don't wish the best for them.
I know you don't.
You can't try to fuck with somebody's like actual real life and then people to like, sure. Because you were trying to do harm to me from afar because you can never do harm to me up close. So that's that's what it is. Like, you're not built like that. None of y'all are built like that. We know this. So if you're not built like that, then stay in your lane. You're non-confrontational in real life, and still stop being super confrontational and big and bad on the internet, because the internet will get you fucked up in real life. We've seen it happen several times. Like, that's my thing with wrestling fans in general. Wrestling fans, especially the big pompous, like, smug wrestling fan, is like, oh, you're a bitch to anybody who will say it. But you'll never say that in somebody's face, because if somebody punched the shit out you and knock you the fuck out, you'd be like, over some words, oh, you're soft. Like, no, you a bitch. Like, stop. Like, this is a generational thing, but it's also a I've never been outside, I've never been around people. If you talk the type of shit that wrestling fans, just those people in general say, if you say this type of stuff to someone in their face, what you do has consequence. Stop doing bitch shit. Stop doing bitch ass shit and getting mad. You getting a consequence. Move like a regular, like, I've said this before to so many people. It takes more effort to be like a loser and an idiot than it does just be normal. Like, literally, you're doing because you think you're edgy, you think you're cool. Like, y'all motherfuckers not cool. People have to make things because people want to be cool. You was them kids in the lunch table watching everybody who you thought was cool, the jocks and all that shit, and you wanted to be like them, and you got your revenge of the nerd shit happening because of social media, and it's not fucking real. You walk down the streets, you got your head down. You walk down the streets, somebody bumping into you, I'm sorry, my bad, apologize, but you the biggest and bad motherfucker on social media, online, and that's not just wrestling, that's in general. Stop acting like shit
and step out of the way and then pull out your phone and fucking bully somebody on the internet.
It's like, Twitter. Stop it. Like, stop it, bro. Like, I've really been in situations that you would cry and go in a fetal position if you had to be around. Please stop. You are not tough. You are not cool. Y'all are regular, everyday people, and there's nothing wrong with being you. Be you. Be a star. Be a star. Be you. Because that's who you are. You are not anything threatening or tough or none of that. You are a bitch. Don't be something online and let people gas you up. It's a bunch of losers in a circle gassing each other up because you've never felt comfortable in your own skin to be that. And now you got people who, oh, these are my brother, and pat him on the back. Be you, bro. That's not y'all. And if a lot of y'all
be clear.
supporters do,
Be clear. If you're somebody who, sends a bunch of people after, young women to harass them, sends a bunch of people after someone who's fucking homeless to fuck with their fucking GoFundMe account, you are a fucking coward. And then deny connection to it in public. You are a fucking coward.
Big time. Y'all clown. Y'all are bitches. Y'all are bitches.
On the agenda, be fucking normal.
Yes, be normal.
Be normal. We had a very... It's interesting, the different groups of people that you traverse between, how they feel about wrestling and wrestling shows, because I'm in a Discord with a bunch of wrestling fans that are, all walks of life, respect them a lot. They love, I've known all of them for 15 years. Love wrestling. Everybody in that place, and are extremely critical, by the way, of things that go on in wrestling. Everybody in that place thought that was a fucking phenomenal show last night. Both Rumbles were fucking fantastic. Overall, the show was a top 10 Royal Rumble pay-per-view of all time. Because that Cody and Kevin Owens match was fucking banging too. Everybody thought it was fucking fantastic. But you go on Twitter and I think that there's something to do with this, and we're going to talk about like the psychology of selecting Jey Uso as the person who wins the Royal Rumble.
I actually have an article that's out right now.
Yeah,
on Medium. Go check it out.
Is the camps basically? Everybody had like their favorites and their ideas of what they think how this WrestleMania path in this WrestleMania story and what should main event WrestleMania. There's like these little camps. There's the Punk camp, the Cena camp, the Bloodline camp, Roman Reigns camp. There's all these little camps, and everybody had their idea of like their perfect outcome, and that didn't happen. And I think that's why you see such a huge difference, in that Discord I'm in. 30 wrestling fans who know their shit, like everybody loved the show, but on Twitter you just see the fucking place is burning down. Everybody's pissed, and I think it's because they all fell into those camps. And I think that's what you saw out of the Jey Uso is guys super over with the crowd. It was the thing that they could pick where it falls into the tradition of Royal Rumbles, where you're trying to put someone new over and build someone new and give them that big win and send them on their way. It's someone that they knew the crowd wasn't going to shit on. Nobody in the crowd was going to shit on. One of the most over guys in the company. I don't think so. You don't have to. You leave yourself runway to figure out what you're going to do with all these major players and all these that lead all these other camps. Not so much that they don't already know what they're going to do, because like for one, with Punk and Roman, and it kind of seems like they kind of knew the plan back in probably November. But you allow yourself runway to tell the story, to get people to come along with you on whatever your plan is. And also, I just don't think that anybody, I don't say this without disrespecting, I don't think anybody expects Jey Uso and Gunther to be on top of one of the two nights. So
hell no.
Therefore, it won't be a disappointment or an insult when that is not the case, as it would be with one of these other camps. And what I would also say to everybody who's losing their goddamn minds is, do you recall? It was just a year ago. What we started with and what we were thinking the night of the Royal Rumble a year ago, and what we ended up with, right? So I'm all for, and there's one of the other Royal Rumble, the women's, which is big time, is going to be like, I feel like you got to judge it in a vacuum. How does it play out ultimately? But Jey
Fuck
Uso,
that.
Royal Rumble.
Fuck that Rumble. Fuck that Rumble. I'm gonna stop you right there for this reason
Okay,
only.
yeah,
I
go.
don't have any issue with Charlotte being positioned as her main event self because she's a legendary name in WWE. But it just gets to a point where it's like, can we not? Like, does she like always have like there was the graphic that like it's like only 3 months in between her getting title shots when she's active. And it's just like when you look at this woman's rumble, there's so much talent that's in this rumble there that the need for Charlotte to be in the mix of the main event every single time or the title picture, it's unnecessary. You know what I mean? And we're still, they brought Trish Stratus back. They got, Becky Lynch is due back very soon. There's other women, and it just felt like Charlotte was some people said safe pick. I don't think it was a safe pick. I actually think it was like an annoying ass pick because it's like, bruh, how like I think if you had like a Io Sky toss Charlotte out at the end, that gives Io Sky a boost heading into whoever she's or facing, say, a Rhea Ripley, or if you're going for Bianca and Rhea Ripley, if that's the conversation. I think at least having one of those two be the last person that gets eliminated, I think that made more sense than what they did. And that's where I think some of the issue is that there was no there's no suspense to it at all. There's no suspense to it at all. You lost Bianca and Io Sky, who are the two favorites for anybody who wasn't obviously like two people who people wanted to see win. Like, people expected Charlotte to win because of Charlotte. And I think that's bad. Like, Triple H is like, oh, sometimes, predictable is good. Like, it wasn't, though. It actually, like, deflated. And then even on YouTube, it has, like, 20,000 more dislikes than it has likes or some shit that I saw. Which is this YouTube, so it don't really matter. But also, you could kind of feel that the crowd itself, even when she won, was kind of like, anytime somebody wins a rumble, it's like, but then after a while, like, that slowly starts to settle in, like, yeah, okay. It's just more of the status quo in a time where WWE has so many other options that you could choose that would be slightly more interesting. And then Charlotte just literally got back wearing her knee brace. Like, there's concerns about, I would say concerns about her health. She's a lot older than she was, say, 10 years ago when she first got, prominent. Will be concerns, which is funny. It's going to be a conversation we'll have on Hoops Hour about concerns about people's health long term. But I think it was just lazy. It's just lazy. And also, I'm not a Charlotte fan like everybody else is. I don't find her to be super engaging. I think her characters typically suck. And I think her promos typically are pretty borderline, like, eh. So, someone said it's like it was the nepotism rumble. And that's probably something to that. All the chips that got cashed in are people involved in these families and these dynasties that are, very successful. But I just felt like if Tiffany Stratton does not definitively defeat Charlotte, this is
Holy
the
shit.
dumbest decision.
Charlotte's gonna be 39 on fucking WrestleMania.
Wow. 39 with a knee
God
brace
damn.
after almost a year off of that is a risk, WWE. And Charlotte did look a little slower than she usually did to me. But once again, first match back, winning the Rumble. Tiffany Stratton is an amazing athlete, and Tiffany Stratton should only be getting this match against Charlotte to definitively defeat her and push on to the next era of what comes. Because the Four Horsewomen era, I'm sorry, we're slowly moving past the need. Bailey is still great. Don't get me wrong. Becky Lynch is still great. Mercedes is killing it in AEW from a match perspective and all this, CEO stuff. But it's time to slowly transition out of these eras just a little bit. It's time to slowly, like, Charlotte doesn't need a title shot every time she's active. Let her get to other feuds. Let her put over some of these. Was it Lyra, Valkyrie? Let her work with her. Why not work with her and put her over? Why not work with some of these NXT girls? Work with Roxanne Perez. Work with Julia. Work with other people and put these people over, because you are not the future anymore. You are slowly becoming the past. You helped build a bridge to a whole nother era of professional wrestling for women. But the Becky Lynch's, the Baileys, the Sashas, the Charlottes, they're still very relevant in what they do. But there's a whole generation of wrestlers after you that are now building their names. The Rhea Ripley's, the Bianca
I guess
Belair.
we'll jump in here is I'll ask you, since you are so against it. In a vacuum, if she does end up going to WrestleMania and putting, so there's two different kinds of put over. Let's not forget that. There's the rub and there's the actual getting beat. Mm-hmm. If she goes to WrestleMania and gets beat by Tiffany Stratton, is this worth it?
No, because she could have still won a chamber to do it. No, like her, to me, Charlotte losing the Rumble and then coming back to win the chamber actually would make more sense, because it was her first match back and it just looked super easy. So I don't know. Like, I think what they think Charlotte is versus what Charlotte looks like to other people who aren't like super fans of hers, I think they don't have that same perspective. I don't think people respect them 15, 14 titles, because them reigns ain't shit. Her title reigns ain't really been shit. They like, what title reign does Charlotte have that really moved the world and made people be like, oh shit, like this is a groundbreaking title run? There hasn't been one. Actually, I think that's the problem too in WWE. That none of these women's title runs have moved mountains or made people like, yo, this is a great run. Maybe we need a don't take this idea, WWE, but maybe we need a Roman Reigns style title reign where somebody just super dominant and continues to beat great people, but you also run the risk of kind of bearing your talent and not being able to build up a faith. The one good thing that came out of Roman Reigns' long title run is that you get Sami Zayn as a main event player. Seth Rollins, found his way back. Kevin Owens is now like a super heel. Cody Rhodes is super over. Jey Uso became a main event player because of Roman Reigns' whole storyline and title reign. Who is Charlotte definitively put over that benefited from working with her so far? And that's where I think, to me, I'm a little like, I mean, Becky Lynch went down to NXT, right? Won the NXT title and then dropped it and all that stuff like that. And I believe she beat Tiffany Stratton for the title, if I'm not mistaken, and lost to Lyra. I think
Valkyria,
yeah. So Tiffany losing to Becky did actually elevate her and give her the rub, because Tiffany completely took off after that. Like, she completely
that was the match where people stood up and took notice, because Tiffany did a bunch of crazy shit in that match. The crazy things that we're accustomed to seeing from her now.
And see, that's where, though, I feel like the Charlotte thing is kind of like, I expected Charlotte to get the title match because it was obvious. Super blonde, the two blondes. I understand the contrast of what WWE is looking at. And some people feel like Tiffany is like the younger, improved version. I think she's better than Charlotte, personally. I mean, I've heard people say that. It's like the past versus the future.
I think, I think she's a better. She has more tools. Whether she's going to develop the experience and the instincts to put on the quality of matches that we've seen from Charlotte over the years, that remains to be seen. But I get what you're saying.
I've never been a big Charlotte fan personally. I've just never felt like she was that amazing, and I think that's just kind of my thing. I've always felt, I'm like, I would just be bored to tears watching some of her matches personally, but I think she's gifted and I think she's talented, and I think she has a great moonsault, but I think Tiffany's is a little bit better. So with that, I mean, Tiffany doesn't need the rub like per se, but a win over one of the biggest and most decorated champions at WrestleMania is important. I just felt like if we're doing a Io Sky versus Rhea Ripley or Bianca Belair versus Rhea Ripley, whichever, I think if Io Sky, seems like maybe that's the direction with some of the talk, Io Sky absolutely needed that Rumble win a lot more than Charlotte did.
Oh, and you could have also done an interesting deal where, Cena was shockingly eliminated at last, right? And then he goes on to say, I am going to make it to WrestleMania. I am going to win another title. I'll see you at the Elimination Chamber. You could have had Charlotte do the same thing, right? That would have been, and then you would have had a parallel storyline. Yep. It would have been parallel going into the chamber, but then it would have split because then you have one win and one lose, and it's like, oh shit, that was supposed to be and that's how you keep people. I do see that too, and I do see that. It would have been a great rub for somebody else to win the Rumble.
Disappointed in how Nia Jax eliminated. The Nia Jax elimination thing fucked with me because Bianca and Io were like, if Charlotte didn't win, those are the other two that people thought were going to win because who else would win? Nobody else. There's no star power that would really win. Like Bayley's not going to probably win back to back because it just didn't make sense. But Bianca and Io both getting just knocked out randomly by Nia Jax, it felt so like
anticlimactic. Yeah.
And then also, if I thought Io was winning when she came out at 1, I was like, oh shit, they're about to do the thing. Bayley and Io both coming in at 1 at winning, they're about to do the thing. And then Io being in that match for 30, 40 fucking minutes and then just get knocked out. Like, I was like, that's so like if Charlotte won and she defeated Io or in last eliminated, I could see that. Or last eliminated Bianca, I could see that. It just did not. They just didn't do it properly. Just didn't do it right. I'll say this: Trish Stratus still looks amazing after all these years, and
she looks better.
Yeah, really.
I'm not going to get into specifics, but she has taken note of the trends of what culturally we in modern times find attractive. I'm just going to say that. Shout out to her, Alexa Bliss. That was fucking awesome. The reaction.
Damn, the pop of the Rumble, basically.
Ridiculous.
Really.
Yeah. Well, I mean, of that Rumble. Yeah.
That Rumble for sure.
But, it's arguable. Was her pop bigger than Joe Hendry's? I think it might have been. That pop was fucking crazy. The Alexa Bliss one. I didn't know. I knew she had fans. I know she had shooters, but I didn't know people fucked with her like that. That was wild. That was cool. It was cool. I love shit like that.
Absence makes the heart grow fonder, right? So the absence of, and plus also we haven't seen her like that since the Bray thing, and then the Y6 is back.
Yeah, there's some connectivity there where there's people.
Yeah. So it's but I'm glad to see her back. Always, I was never the biggest fan of Alexa Bliss, but I think she found her thing with the whole Fiend and all that Bray stuff. I think she found like something that was different for her, and it fits kind of fit her look and personality. I think that's really what it. She wasn't like the I don't know. She just like, I think that fits more to what works for her. And huge pop, and people were really disappointed when she got eliminated. And also, I have to give a big shout out to Chelsea Green. I am such a damn fan of Chelsea Green.
I was thinking about last night. I said we should do the DAR Fave 5, just rotating and three people who have a permanent residence in the DAR Fave 5 is Mariah May, is Harley Cameron, and it is Chelsea fucking Green, who was goddamn phenomenal in this match last night. Everything she fucking does is so good. She was so damn good in that match last night. Absolutely.
She's just it's funny because it just goes to show that character and charisma still go a long way in professional wrestling. You don't have to be, Chelsea Green might not give you a 5-star contest, but I'm always entertained by the shit she does. It's so ridiculous. And it's funny you mentioned Harley Cameron and Mariah May, although we have not really talked AEW. Mariah May, Harley Cameron, even Tony Storm coming back, and there's so many women who are doing great character work in professional wrestling right now, and I think it's not talked about enough of how character, these funny promos, like this is what makes people like people. So when we get to the main event of the Royal Rumble and we talk about charisma, character, and how it enhances and entices people, I don't think people should have been surprised who walked away as the winner. I do get, though, why people are slightly disappointed, because I do. One, John Cena did not need to win the Royal Rumble. I will say this to the end, because I don't actually think John Cena is going to win 17. And if he does, it'll be very much towards the end of this run, not the beginning of it, because the whole story has got to be about him chasing 17. If you do that in the first few months, it's just no. He has to have a goal. John Cena is a storyteller. Let's be clear. He is a storyteller. He might actually end up going and winning the Elimination Chamber, or he might not. He might not. And what happens is that he will have a match with someone at Mania that cost him that. And it's going to send him crazy. It's going to make him lock in, because he doesn't look locked in. Doesn't look like John Cena recently.
So one thing, real quick on Chelsea Green before we go, because I wanted to mention something to you. I don't know if you caught this. One last thing on Chelsea Green. I think it's also and I'm not saying that the WWE Performance Center and the way they're doing things with I almost said DEI, god damn it, with the fucking NIL stuff, it can work. We've seen it work. But I think something with Chelsea Green that we've always said, and it's something that is Chelsea Green just gets it. She understands what this is. She has incredible instincts, incredible knowledge of how to do things, when to do them, and it's something that speaks to, like, she's a fucking vet. She's a fucking veteran. She's been all over the place. She's worked in so many different places where there's so many different, right? There's whole like quadrants, whole parts of Chelsea Green that people forget that were like huge runs. Like when she did Reclusa in fucking Lucha Underground, when she was Hot Mess Express and fucking TNA. There was like this whole crazy, characterization that she had. She's done all these things. She's developed who she is and her knowledge of how to make things work over the years. And that's how you get this incredible fucking package that we have now. And I think that just, that's always been my favorite way or the way I think is like really successful or attractive in bringing in somebody new is that, they've been all over, they've gained all this experience, they've worked. And that's part of it, is like, you work around other people who have been doing this a long time, who are better, who know more, and then you learn from them. You take things from them. You take things from them that they learned from other people who had been around longer and had done things at a bigger level. So I just think that's it's not surprising that we're seeing that in a lot of these new people that they have coming up who went that road. And that leads me to what I was going to bring up about Cena. There's another gentleman who had a very long road to get to the WWE, who I noted didn't have like a big interaction with Cena last night, and I was disappointed about that. But then they, real quick on camera, they showed him staring back, looking back over his shoulder on the way out, looking at Cena. I don't know if you caught this. Jacob Fatu, I think. There's a good chance that ends up being who goes with Cena at WrestleMania. And that's another guy. A long road, lots of development. There has been, I was, talking with my buddies. I don't know if there's ever been anyone who immediately, upon the first day they stepped on the scene, was like, put him in the main event. He's the guy. He has it all. Goldberg, even that was like a build, right? Brock Lesnar, Diesel. Those are like the only ones I could really think of. instant credibility. Instantly, this guy is a fucking meteorite crashing into the world. I think we could end up, and that's because he was ready to go. He's been ready to go for years. Jacob Fatu is fucking phenomenal. We can't say enough about it. You had noticed, you had mentioned something about his dress and appearance a couple weeks ago, and I wanted to. I don't know if you know this. You probably do know this, but there's a reason. Anyways,
Are we talking about Jacob Fatu being big?
Yeah. Well, let's not say it.
Oh, you know me. I say it.
I know. Yeah, I know. That's why I'm trying to stop you. So I think that's gonna. I think that could be. I think that could be end up being where Cena ends up at is with Jacob Fatu. Jacob Fatu costs him the Elimination Chamber. He looks, he's this apex predator trying to take down the old apex predator, and then we go into Cena's chase for 17. What do you think about Jacob Fatu, Cena, and then let's start getting into where you think these guys, all these different camps, are headed.
I'll be honest. I would love Cena versus Jacob Fatu, especially Jacob Fatu going over Cena. That would be a major, massive win for Jacob Fatu, especially because I think Cena is regarded by many as one of the best promos. But I think Jacob Fatu off the leash might be able to go there with him because honestly, what could you say to Jacob Fatu? Like, Cena has a way of belittling and making his opponents feel smaller. I don't feel like that's a guy you can do that. This ain't Roman.
No,
this ain't Roman. 7 years ago.
Jacob Fatu is never, even though he's been a heel, he's never taken a step back.
No,
he's never been a coward. He's been a fucking wild man since he showed up.
And I think that's the thing. Jacob Fatu has all the tools. I'm so seriously entertained by everything he does. I saw his promo with Damian Priest the other night.
Lord,
just fire.
Damian Priest is really real quick. Damian Priest has really elevated his game last 6 months.
Oh, Damian Priest is great,
big time.
He's great. I'm a little concerned about this Drew McIntyre. I don't know if that's where I would go for WrestleMania with Drew and Damian Priest. I don't feel like that's where I would go, but it seems like it. I'm not like to your question about the different camps and where they're going. I don't necessarily like the direction I feel like it's going. It feels like, first of all, fuck The Rock. It pisses me off. You can't, because it's like Kevin Garnett in Uncut Gems. Why would you show me something if you know I couldn't have this shit? Why come back, do a Bad Blood, put your 3 fingers up, and then announce that you're coming back for Netflix Raw, and then cut the bullshit promo, and then go to NXT and be like, wait for the ride that The Rock's take you on. Look, I get that he's reshooting live action Moana. I get he's about to shoot Fast 11 or whatever it is. So I guess he's very busy. But this is Vegas. This is WrestleMania. Roman Reigns versus The Rock is the only match left for The Rock, and I think we know that that's the thing now. But it almost feels like none of this matters anymore. Like, Rock completely wrapped up his story. It's over with. Obviously, Punk and Roman Reigns will have some type of involvement with each other going into WrestleMania. Seth Rollins might be involved in it. It's just really weird. I think Punk has the opportunity. Punk can have the opportunity to have these great feuds with people, and then they just stick Seth Rollins in the middle of it. It just, I don't really understand what they're doing. Maybe they're just building that part up for Elimination Chamber. Maybe they'll all be in Elimination Chamber, and maybe that's why they're
loaded Elimination Chamber. Fucking,
yeah, that's probably Cena, what Roman, that is.
Punk, Rollins, Fatu, maybe like.
Yeah, it's gonna be huge. It's gonna be huge. So I think that's what it. People are like, oh, I think Punk versus Reigns is probably gonna be the WrestleMania match. Probably. I'm not necessarily on board with that one, but I someone did say, and this
Why
is
aren't you on
also
board
why.
with it? I think that I mean, I'm not
So
on board with it because we want Punk to get his fucking WrestleMania main event. Get that box checked off, man. We say this so often. Time is not like infinite. That motherfucker
not no
he could have a career-ending injury in the next 6
time is
months.
of the
Like,
essence.
let's fucking go. Like, but anyways, but I think that there's a lot.
I
I think
have a
there's a lot
thought.
there. I think there's a lot there. I think that make Roman look strong, and both of them are gods on the mic, and I think the Paul Heyman connection, I think is fucking gonna be a damn fine WrestleMania build up.
But
But yeah, I want to get him in that main event, man.
here's why I'm not so sure about this.
Yeah,
If
I
Cena
think I know where you're going.
does not win the Elimination Chamber,
Who is gonna win?
then who wins?
Who is going against Cody?
So that's where I think maybe we
Roman.
don't.
Maybe Roman wins it, and then that's Punk's favor from
There,
Heyman.
there is that, or Punk just outright wins it.
Yeah,
because, or like I said, or they could go Cena versus Cody and Punk versus Reigns, but that doesn't, Cena and Cody just doesn't move me as a main event for WrestleMania. I think that's a SummerSlam thing. Because it's like, SummerSlam used to do like the big face versus face thing, like when they did Batista
Cena
versus
versus
John
Cody
Cena.
sounds like a WrestleMania, SummerSlam match.
It just feels like
and the way you're laying it out actually is kind of it's our guy Webb, and Brandon over there, old Tugboat Nation over there on tugboats. That's what we'll call them. On UFM, they were asking me about this stuff this morning, and he said that he thought that Roman was the biggest, Roman and Cody, right? Because it's a little bit of unresolved. Like, Roman hasn't had his rematch for the belt. That's a big WrestleMania match. And I said, I don't think they're going to run back it a third time at WrestleMania. So that kind of sounds like a SummerSlam match. But the way that we're laying it out here, you can satisfy that and also get Punk his Mania main event. But then you get Roman with that unresolved rematch against Cody. But then you get Punk in there, add that element of it, because we already saw a little setup between Punk and Cody the other night, last Monday, in a very fine promo combination.
Yep.
So then you throw that bit of spice into it. Bam, you got a triple threat. Punk gets his WrestleMania main event. Punk's body, that has issues staying healthy at this age, can do less of the work. And then that's a great with the pieces that they have. Obviously, I think the optimal that we would have liked would have been Rock and Cody, or Rock and Roman. But with the pieces we have available, I think, especially with what they've already set up, Cody, Roman, Punk, I think that's a great triple threat match for the belt. I think that's a great WrestleMania main event.
I would enjoy the Punk Roman, because you know what Punk, Roman, and Cody in a triple threat would feel like? It would feel like back in WrestleMania 29 when it was Rock and Cena, and they flirted with the idea.
Should have been Punk, yes.
It should have been Punk in the midst of that. And
yes.
Because they were gonna do Brock versus Undertaker. I remember the conversation was we could pivot to make this a triple threat, give Punk his main event. Punk can lose. Punk doesn't even care about winning. He's okay with losing.
Exactly. Yep.
But him getting to mix it up with Cena, I mean, we saw during this buildup of WrestleMania 29, the greatest Cena versus Punk match arguably happened, which is one of the best matches that happened on Raw in general. So I think WWE can correct their era and make things happen. And with Punk, Cody, and Roman, those are your three biggest draws in the company, literally in the main event. Which then my question is, what would main event night? Would it really be Jey Uso versus
and Gunther? Yeah.
Then because in that case, is that what we're headed to? And then the next question, Seth Rollins. What does he do?
Yeah, what's Rollins doing? Yeah.
And so there is.
What do you think? You got any thoughts?
So
Drew isn't doing nothing. But they wrestled last year, so I don't know.
But they wrestled each other. So someone asked me last night, is it possible that Cody, Seth, Roman, and Punk had a fatal 4-way? And I said, do you remember WrestleMania 16, WrestleMania 2000? I was like, hey, you're taking your star power and putting it into one match. But what that does, it does open up more spots for WrestleMania matches.
This roster is so fucking deep. We were talking about that last night.
I think we're obviously going to get Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens, especially after what happened. We're about to get Kevin Owens either turning on Sami or Sami turning on Kevin before he gets him. Like, we see where that's going. That's great for them. They can get a WrestleMania match together. Yeah, great moment for them.
This sounds crazy, but they can wordsmith things. They could, that's what these people are employed to do.
Yeah,
I'm kind of interested in maybe Rollins against Braun Breaker.
That would be great. I think Braun Breaker match is already set in stone for WrestleMania, and they've hinted at it, I believe, this past week on Raw. I think we're setting up for Penta to be the person that dethrones him.
Say that. Well, that was the other person I was going to throw into the mix, either Penta against Rollins, or
I would love that. I would love that.
Yes, just go out there and open the show with like a crazy. You just go nuts, both of you.
But
I think you could do Breaker. You could do Breaker against Penta as well for the IC belt.
Because Penta and Braun are like because even though Penta's a luchador, he's a lucha. He's like a bruiser, like a bruiser type of lucha. He's not, And so with Braun, and first of all, that spear to Roman from Braun, fucking.
And the spear to Ice Speed too.
fire. And that's another thing. There's so much talent there. Also, the question is to go back to what I guess the women did. What are all these great women going to do at WrestleMania? So that also begs the question of you got Charlotte already. Somebody's going to face Rhea Ripley, but if it's not Bianca, what about Jade Cargill? I'm pretty sure she's on the way back. Are we going to see some development there?
I think we might see a heel Bianca. I think it might get revealed. I think we might get some parking lot, some digitized parking lot footage of it was Bianca that hurt Jade. I thought that they hinted a little bit of aggression out of Bianca last night during the interaction between Jordan Grace and Naomi. Shout to Jordan Grace too. You fucking lying liar! I knew it.
Nobody. Wrestlers are liars.
That's good.
How dare she use her mother's? That's how terrible.
Good. That's a worker, man, right there. So what we got? So we got
Jacob another one too.
Cena. We got Gunther. We got Jacob Fatu Cena. We got Gunther. Jay. We got Bianca Rhea. Heel Bianca Rhea. Maybe triple threat with Io in there. That would fucking rock.
I love that. Yeah.
Rollins and or Penta against Braun. Triple threat: Cena, Reigns, Cody. Fucking rock. This is book it. Good WrestleMania. Good job, us. Charlotte Tiffy, of course.
When we put this together, sounds fairly decent. When it actually comes together, who knows? Because last year, I was not super excited for WrestleMania last year, and then boom, 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 we just
things changed.
Turned on. So, and I spoke about this for years prior. WWE did not get me excited for WrestleMania a lot of times because I was like, the booking would be like, "What are you doing? Like, what are we doing here? You got all this fucking talent. What are we doing?" I think the one WrestleMania that I remember over the last 10 years, prior to say last year, and 39 was pretty good too. But the last WrestleMania that I could remember, especially when it was one night, that I was excited for was 35. And I think why I was excited, because I was going to be in New York that weekend, but also it felt like WWE was listening to their audience at the time. And obviously they squandered that away quite quickly because the rest of 2019, in pandemic WWE. Oof, not fun. But it felt like it. Here, it feels like they kind of are listening, but like also
one more thing I want to throw in because we forgot, man. Another person, IC title or US title range. Fucking AJ Styles came back.
Oh yeah,
Y'all don't want
AJ.
none. Y'all don't want none theme music. AJ Styles came back last night. Like, so
Yes, sir.
Yes, I'd love to see him also involved in some sort of US title, IC title, something or other.
WWE has a great problem to have. They have a wealth of fucking talent. And it's getting, I will say this, NXT has so many women that could be the next, which is also why when Charlotte wins, I'm like, please let this be the start of her just putting people over because she's in that twilight phase. Because shout out to Stephanie, who made her Royal Rumble debut last night, and Julia, and you know, these excellent women. Roxanne Perez went out there and had a great show, and I think she's like the longest entrant of her, I think something like that. These are all great women. And soon they're going to be on the main roster. And when that happens, I mean, and the funny part is when they leave, you still got a shit ton of talent that they're building up in NXT.
There's a lot of talented women they didn't even have in that match last. So Chikara Jackson, Sol Ruka, all those types. So
shout out to Lash Legend too. Lash Legend was in Rumble.
Yeah, it was awesome and looked incredible. Yep.
Yeah. I mean,
people are gonna fucking remember her. Yeah. And with Jade sidelined right now as well. So
and so that's the thing. When Jade comes back, I mean, I think we know that there's gonna be something with her and Bianca. I think that's
her and someone. We're gonna find out what happens.
Yeah, there's something. It could be Naomi. It could be I think because people are thinking Naomi did it, I think that's why I think it's gonna be Bianca. And they're gonna pivot, and Bianca's gonna be like some sadistic type of heel who is jealous of other people's success, and she wants to be back on top, and that's going to lead to a heel Bianca being champion. I feel like that's going to probably be, I don't know whether she beats the Io Sky for it or she beats Rhea Ripley for it, but I think with Rhea Ripley being so popular and so viral, you can turn Bianca heel. I think that's okay to do.
Bianca was a heel when she first came onto the scene in 16, 17.
She was a good heel too.
She was real good. Yeah. So I think that does have potential. I think that, I don't know. I see Bianca as kind of a Cena almost. Like I don't really know if they use her the right way. I don't think that there's any time where she needs to be a fucking heel, but also much like Cena, I think she's gonna do a real fucking great job. So if she does get the opportunity.
I would say this: Cena had so many opportunities where they could have turned him heel, even if it was just for a brief period of time. Because Roman was someone who got similar reactions to Cena, and what happened with Roman? They turned this motherfucker heel, and he went to fucking God mode. He fucking godly, like night and day. But Cena don't have. I don't think Cena has the personality for it anymore. Because
not anymore. I'm just saying. It reminds me of
he didn't have a Cena.
Like Bianca could have been the face of the company as a baby face forever, and it would have been fine. But that doesn't mean that she doesn't have, like, I think Cena could have been a fantastic heel if they would have turned him during his run.
There were several times where they hinted at possibly turning Cena.
Yeah.
And every time they hinted at, people were getting super excited, and I remember like, nah, it's not happening. It's not, because Vince would have never done that, because Vince never turned Hulk Hogan heel. The only person who he actually considered turning heel that was big was Stone Cold Steve Austin. And that was just because Stone Cold is Stone Cold, and Stone Cold's character has always been heelish, and they made him a coward, and people hated it, but I loved it. I still think 2001 Stone Cold's fucking best version of Austin I've ever seen in terms of entertainment.
Some of the stuff that came out of it was all-time classic, and we hope this is looking like it's going to be an all-time classic week here. I couldn't figure out where to say, is this the beginning of the week of our content or the end of the week of our content? But I think a lot of you are going to be listening to this on Monday, so I will say this is going to be a big week of content on DAR Sports Media. you've got this one here that we just recorded that I think is probably going to make some waves on the interwebs. Start off there. Obviously, huge trade news in the NBA. I thought I was falling asleep when it came out. I was going in and out of sleep. I thought I had fucking hallucinated what I had fucking heard. That Luka Doncic had been traded. And then furthermore, could not believe that, yes, indeed, Luka Doncic had been traded and what he was traded for. When I found out this morning that I was not imagining that when I fell asleep last night. So obviously we'll be having a hoops hour, probably a Monday situation. We'll be getting. I was like, fuck, are we gonna fire one up right fucking now? Last night at 2:00 in the morning.
I almost thought about it. That's why I wrote the article. I tried to write at least to get some of those views because I know that shit is everywhere.
So that will be coming. It'll be a spirited hoops hour this week. And then who knows? There's still the Jimmy Butler fucking shooter drop. So who the fuck knows? We could have an insane
trade deadline week.
Yeah, trade deadline week. We're gonna have an insane hoops hour this week. And then we got a little something special for you on the NFL side of things. Because obviously there's no game to review. And we already did the Super Bowl preview. So we're gonna do a little nostalgia hour NFL episode this week. We're gonna talk about the first Super Bowl everybody watched and their memories of it. We're gonna talk about who their favorite Super Bowl champions or Super Bowl games that they've watched, and talk about the teams who they think are lost rings, the best teams that didn't end up winning a Super Bowl. We're all gonna jump into that. All of our NFL experts this week on the NFL pod. So huge week for content here on DAR Sports Media. And there's some things in the work today in just a little while. There might be even more interesting things coming up on the content side for DAR Sports Media here pretty soon. The Medium site, like you said, True, has an article up already on the Doncic, Anthony Davis, Mavs, Lakers trade. One of the biggest trades in NBA history. Honestly, when you think about the caliber of players and the caliber of the teams involved and it's the Lakers. Like this is one of the biggest trades in NBA history. We've already got an article up on it. We've already got an article up on the Jey Uso Royal Rumble win. It's all up there.
Shout out Jey Uso for winning the Royal Rumble. Shout out to Cam for obviously the Commanders and Longhorns did not go as far as he wanted them to. But he was one of the first people to call Jey Uso as a main event player. So I have to give Cam his credit. I would never give him credit for anything else ever again. But shout out to Cam for seeing the Jey Uso vision before the rest of us did. That's it for me.
Huge week here on the channel. That's because the world of DAR never stops.